to set up a shooting range with something moving, and you were up above it like I forget, 60 or 70 feet up, and you're trying to hit a narrow target like a person's head, it isn't easy. And the fact that he did it with that Italian old World War II rifle is absolutely remarkable. And I think to this day there are many people that believe that things were planted. I mean, there's always going to be conspiracy theorists, right? Like the ammo clip was planted after, and all this other stuff. And there always will be a certain amount of skepticism about November 23 of 1963, and you know that. And I don't know if it's ever going to be settled.
The bullet that was found on the gurney, the magic bullet, had virtually no deformation at all. And for the damage that it did going through bone and tissue, there would have been some aberration to the bullet head. But it was found pristine, which reasonably indicates that there was somebody who had the bullet from that rifle shot into a gelatin or some kind of other trap that didn't deform the bullet and caught the bullet. And somebody was planted to drop the bullet somewhere where it could be found near the body. So there's a lot of inside jobs, a lot of issues around that pristine bullet, that was found on the gurney that matched the ballistics and the rifling, and the bolt extraction. Actually, wouldn't have anything to do with the casing, but the rifling itself, the striated lines of rifling on the bullet matched the rifle, the actual rifle that was captured from Oswald, the supposed gun. So there are too many conspiracy elements which could pan out. And also, of course, we know that the investigation was locked by the Warren Commission for 99 years to protect the innocent and the guilty in the conspiracy.
Yeah, very good, Peter. KC2QYM. Yes, you're going over the details that you yourself being unaware of what's in my conversation, that we basically had covered those points ourselves, and we're very, for the most part, I think, in agreement with everything that you just had said and described. But Lynn and I are at a point now of discussing a new factor that he brought up, and we focused. Lynn and I left our conversation covering the really sloppy job of the Warren Commission, and all of that. We covered all of that stuff, and then we got down to, hey, how could he? Rick brought up this point. How could he ever get those shots off? And I brought up, well, how could he ever get them off, considering that it was a bolt-action shotgun that will more throw any shot, or you have to go and take a second shot. The first shot will throw off your second shot. But what makes it worse is two factors. When you have a bolt-action shotgun, okay.
Stanley, it wasn't a bolt-action shotgun. It was a very light-hitting 6.5 by 54 Mannlicher Carcano carbine. And you just can't rack 3 rounds within 3 seconds and shoot accurately with that rifle. It's a shorter barrel. It has a little bit more kick than a full infantry level rifle because the barrel is shorter. The bottom line is the guy couldn't get 3 shots off within 3 seconds. Impossible. And be accurate on a moving target.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. And the fact is, there was nothing there to indicate that the little carbine or whatever it was that he had, he didn't have any kind of stabilizing, you see him in the military, these stands where the gun is actually taken out of the hands of the shooter. It's like a machine gun type thing. That really bolts it down, and the recoil isn't an issue, and there was nothing there of that type. As I said, the only evidence that he actually could have done it is the fact that he did it. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's possible that he could have scored 2 out of 3, and they both were lethal shots to the president. K1LEM.
Now, Peter, Rick brought up a very Peter, Rick brought up a very important point just this morning. Okay, that is and that is, as he said, the gun was found without a clip. Okay, and no clip was found, and not only that, there were pictures of the police taking the gun away from the scene at the clip repository with no clip in it. Well, which point is that makes it even And I said, hey, what that makes it even more, the fact that increases the amount of time for reloading, and that means that he now has to take his hands with a bolt-action shotgun, now has to not only just rechamber a new round from the clip into the gun, but now he has to manually load, and that makes it all the more impossible, by which point that the photo evidence that was pretty much ignored by the Warren Commission, where they smudged it over and made it look like this just happened.
We eventually did find the clip, we eventually did find one.
Compoundedly increased probably 4 or 5 cuts.
All right, part of this, Stanley, stand by. Well, let me come back to this because I'm going to give you the technical idea of what the clip is and how it works.
Would sort of point of aim off further than a semi-automatic would. Okay, and then you have the further exacerbated time to actually have to grab and
Yep, he does.
manually put it in the chamber rather than having it automatically presented by the spring action of the clip. And only the single.
He thinks they're bolt-action shotguns.
They're all bolt-action shotguns, sir, from the 1950s. Mossberg 190 K&A, 16 gauge, 12 gauge. I think there's a 20 gauge as well. It's actually a 2-round. It's a skeet gun. You have a 2-round magazine, and you can put one in the chamber. There are bolt-action shotguns. They're not popular anymore, though.
We did find the clip. That's the important thing. The clip was found and photographed, and it was sort of like after the fact. It was almost as if, if it wasn't in the original inventory that the FBI took from the 6th floor of the school book depository, it could have been an oversight of the FBI. But the point is that eventually, when the issue was raised about the clip, a clip suddenly emerged. I mean, this is really strange, eh? That when the issue comes up, suddenly an ammo clip shows up. So I don't know. It's just all very weird.
Yeah, listen, let me explain what you keep calling clip. Everybody calls this thing a clip. There are things called stripper clips. Most stripper clips basically contain, maybe in military rifles, especially from the last century, a 5-round set of bullets are on this stripper clip. When you open the bolt of the rifle, there are little tracks that you put the stripper clip into, and then you use your thumb and you push the rounds into the magazine. The magazine is what contains the bullets after you strip them off the clip with your thumb into the magazine, and then you take the clip and you discard it. Now the rifle is loaded with 5 rounds. Now you can rack around with your bolt into the chamber so you're ready to fire. Okay? So maybe you're mixing up the word clip with magazine. The magazine is integral on a Mannlicher Carcano into the receiver, into the body of the rifle. The stripper clip is nothing more than a device that holds 5 rounds, and you strip them down into the magazine. The magazine is now loaded with 5 rounds, and you discard the stripper, okay, or the clip. So he was, I'm sure that Oswald, when he was prepared, he had probably 5 rounds in the magazine, and he probably had another round in the chamber to give him 6 possible shots. And then what you do is you put your thumb or finger down and depress down the rounds in the magazine so that when you push the bolt forward slightly, it doesn't catch that extra, that round out of the magazine, so that you can actually close the bolt down on an existing round in the chamber. So you can actually load 6. And that's true with any bolt-action rifle for the most part, especially military rifles. So he could have had 6 rounds already loaded, ready to go. The stripper clip could have been thrown away, discarded. It doesn't matter. This is the nature of that rifle, just to understand the mechanism.
Peter, when the largest seller of firearms in the United States, I never believed it. I wouldn't think it would be Cabela's. Okay, describes a magazine as a clip. We know we're talking about a magazine. Okay, and we know that a magazine, okay, is exactly that. It holds multiple, not pages, of a book. So Cabela's uses the word clip and magazine interchangeably, depending on what firearm you're talking about, even how the manufacturer uses the term. So unfortunately, you're absolutely right. In the technical best definition, you're absolutely right. A clip is like an old connector between a belt of a machine gun bullet that is discarded when it's loaded into a 30-round magazine instead of a belt. So yes, we understand that, Peter. And but even the largest purveyor of guns in the United States uses those terms interchangeably. So I just didn't want to take this point away. And what brings out now is that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, suddenly a clip shows up or a magazine shows up. Okay, out of nowhere, maybe out of whole cloth. Okay, is there to finish the Warren report, to give the Warren report some credibility, because otherwise it would be even all the more fishier than the Warren report already was. KD8IUU.
Understood.
That occurred to me, and I'm not a gun person, so forgive me. All I know is the logic of things. There was no excess ammo found on the sixth floor either, and there was no ammo found on the person, the so-called person.
Probably no ammo on the clip either, or in the magazine either.
Whatsoever. So whoever did the deed, and I'm not saying he didn't do it, but whoever did it, went into that situation thinking that they were going to get off like maybe 3 rounds, maybe something like that. And there was no excess of ammunition found anywhere. And the other thing that was interesting was that they did do a swipe of the books in the area of the 6th floor, and sure enough, they found ambiguous, and I say ambiguous, prints of Lee Harvey Oswald, but they also found prints of other people as well. And remember, these were from the school books. These were from the school books of the 6th floor. So it didn't necessarily tie Lee Harvey Oswald to anything other than the fact that he was moving school books at the place of his employment, which would have been the school book depository. So all of the forensics from the fingerprinting and things like that. Now, there was, I believe, the carbine or whatever you call it, and excuse me, Peter, I know you're the expert here. Even that did not have Lee Harvey Oswald's prints on it exclusively. So, I mean, the whole thing does seem to be a little bit fishy, and I do think people that write these books, they're not tinfoil hat people. They're just critical people that are just wondering how a loser like Lee Harvey Oswald could bring down the leader of the free world, especially at a time of such critical stress where Israel is building nuclear bombs and the CIA is run by the Bush dynasty and all these other things. And there's a whole trail of evidence. Lee Harvey Oswald was not this little boy that just came right out of nowhere. I mean, he was internationally, he had traveled to Mexico, he traveled to Cuba, he traveled all over the place.
Oh, Lee Harvey Oswald was a guest of the Soviet Union.
He's a stupid guy that's traveled all over the world. And there's even one particular piece that I had to...
Hey, Blowhard, nobody cares what you say.
Down in Mexico, when he was sighted down in Mexico, that it really wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald at all. It was an imposter. So
Mister, I know everything about that. Everything about everything. Oh, I'm so knowledgeable. Shut up.
Is a bit of an enigma to the whole issue. I mean, here he is traveling to Cuba, traveling to Mexico.
So for those ignoramuses that are confusing clip with magazine.
So it's just terribly fishy.
Blah, 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 blah.
Listen, KC2QYM here. I'm going to clear, but I'll just leave you with this thought, which is actually part of the whole unknowns about the assassination of JFK. It's all speculative, of course, on my part. And that is it possible? By the way, Lee Harvey Oswald, that's how he married his wife, Marina. I think that's her name. He met her in Russia, in Soviet Union, when he was claiming status over there to stay as a resident. And the thing is, he could have been a part of the assassination in the sense that he could have just provided the rifle. And I'm going to speculate that he probably had the rifle all loaded, ready to go, and that's why you don't see additional rounds of ammunition or stripper clips or anything else in the area, that the rifle was all loaded and ready to go, and anybody that was using that rifle wasn't prepared to do a gunfight with that rifle. They were just prepared to just do the dirty deed of assassinating the president and move on. So he didn't need 100 rounds or 20 rounds or even 10 rounds. 6 rounds or 5 rounds was enough in the magazine for him to do the job. Now, so it's very possible that Oswald just left the rifle and set up the nest, the shooting nest, for somebody else who was actually the shooter.
Well, why did he?
It's very possible that's all his part in it was. So, I mean, there's so many different scenarios. Motivation, forget the motivation elements. A lot of people didn't like JFK. There could have been a lot of motivations for reasons, but what's beyond our understanding. But the bottom line is, it could have been very true that he didn't take the shot, but he was an accessory to the crime, which makes him responsible because he provided the rifle. That's my speculation. Food for thought. Hey, anyway, guys, I'm going to clear. I got things to do, and have a great day. It was a very interesting morning. We went through a soft beginning and a crescendo of death threats and other things by one individual and other argumentation. So, 73, I'll listen now. KC2QYM.
Peter, if you're going to listen out there. Peter, if you're going to listen out, if I could get that guy to stand off his microphone for a minute. The original question, what happened in the news today?
Kill the president with the rifle that he used, and you could do it. But the point is, it's so unlikely. I mean, if you're a scientist or somebody that's skeptical, you would say, my God, the gods of killing the president of the United States on November 23rd, 1963, they must have all conspired to help this dolt assassinate the president, because on his own it just seems so improbable that on his own he could have done it. And that doesn't mean he didn't do it. It just means that all the evidence, when you bring it together and you collate it, it just would